Convinced by capitalism.
Well, I still run Palantir like a commune. So everybody except for the social part isn't quite as good, but everyone gets shares. You work all the time. You mostly like people except for the ones you don't like.
All right, welcome back to the channel, people. I posted a rant today after sleeping a few hours last night. So I was probably in a bad mood when I wrote this, but this is what happens when a self-stated socialist runs a company, right? And like pointing out the correlation to hiring increasing only about 9% along with the high stock-based compensation. And so let's take a look at the historical stock-based compensation from Palantir, if we can trust these numbers from macro trends. I don't know about this 425% growth. I don't know if that's actually real or just a result of going public, but it looks like, they did deliver big growth in 2020 in this quarter, but again, that might be an anomaly. But look at the jump in sort of the annual value of stock-based compensation. Now, that might look like a lot on its face, but let's compare it to Amazon, right? And Amazon, this is Amazon's stock-based compensation. You can see the growth rates here, and Amazon topping over $1 billion in 2013, right? But Amazon was not super profitable back then. So like you can see their trailing 12-month profit here and their quarterly. And I mean, back in 2013, they were still growing like gangbusters, but their profits weren't like huge or anything. But they were issuing quite a lot of stock-based compensation. You see that trend to continue up. This is pretty common in the tech industry. I know that it is because no one takes jobs without RSUs. And if you're at a pre-IPO company, typically you're taking options. So it makes sense. And especially as a lot of people are cashing in, post-IPO, as they're cashing in on those options since they've been with the company for a really long time. So that this makes sense. I get it. And I don't think they're doing anything abnormal, but I would be cautious because of the really planned expansion. What worries me a little bit is just the small number of employees, relatively speaking, and now they plan to grow their workforce reportedly by about 30%. They're something like 1,000 employees. However, I couldn't find an article that stated that, so it must have just been in an interview somewhere. But I couldn't find anything official that says they're going to hire up to 1,000 employees this year, other than that interview that was posted the other day. But let's take that on face value. I think it'll be really interesting to see how the stock-based compensation plays out. And the point that I really want to make to Carp and to the team is like, you have a fiduciary responsibility to protect your shareholders. It's not optional. Like I hear people say things like they don't care about the share price. I understand that to a degree, but like if your strategy involves devaluing your stock at the expense of your millions of retail investors, that equation doesn't balance. So you can't just consider the moral good of issuing shares. But someone pointed out, rightly so in the comments, that like these decisions aren't solely up to Alex Karp, right? These are up to the board. I don't know. I've heard some weird things about the way their corporate structure works, but I think at the very least, Peter Thiel would be involved in the decision making, who's on a complete opposite end of the spectrum when it comes to running a commune. But so that was a really good point. So I think that they're doing everything right, really, with the SBC, and it's not a huge problem right now. Another person also pointed out that really, with the amount of shares that have been issued, they can only dilute it by another 15% unless they start issuing more shares. So hopefully this trend starts to turn around. I think it will. And I think a lot of this was people cashing in as the company went public, rightly so, right? You spend 7 years working on something, or 8 years. That is the time. And a lot of these people took discounted salaries or no salary and took 100% stock-based compensation. So I think it's good for the employees, and I think they're doing the right thing. So I just want to correct the record there.